Hi everyone, this is Jim Tolles. Today I felt moved to talk about relaxing and awakened awareness. And it really is relaxing in the space of resting in the self that is already awake, that all of you already have. And this is always such an important point to reinforce again and again. You already have this awareness. It's already here, and it's not some supernatural superpower that somebody else has. And it's always in this moment. So right now you can go to it. You can go to that space inside you. And so much of what I write about with Spiritual Awakening Process, my blog, is about being in that space and finding all the things that are standing in the way of trusting that awareness that you already have, trusting yourself. And by removing those things, you naturally bring forth that awakened self that simply sees the world without judgment. It sees it with love. And ultimately, love is totally accepting of the moment, of everything as it is. It doesn't try to change anything, doesn't try to impose its will on other things. And too often people confuse this, however, as being passive. The awakened space is not passive, it's very active. If there's something you need to do in this world, it becomes very clear what it is you need to do. More often than not, as people tap into this space, they see the things in their life that they actually have to change, and that scares them because suddenly everything seems uncertain and they don't know what's going to happen. But that's actually the truth of life, is we don't know what's going to happen. And we've got to let go of the illusion of control. We can't make life conform to these little ideas that we have in our heads. It doesn't work that way. And that's exhausting. I mean, that's one of the things you find as you drop more into this space. And you can do it even as you're listening to me. Just start to breathe in more deeply and go a little bit deeper and let go a little bit more. Let go of trying to even understand what I'm talking about. There's an energy to all the work that I do that's there that you can hear at that deeper level. Your soul already hears it. Your soul hears it with any teacher that's really embodying this awareness because it's already there and it starts to resonate. So go to that resonance, go into that deeper space of love. If you find tension, if you find resistance to this, if you're afraid you're going to forget something, just notice those feelings as they arise. Because the more you let go into that space, you are letting go, and that is so relaxing and so peaceful. You suddenly realize you don't have to control everything, that everything is proceeding in its own divine time. It's not naive. You won't forget to pick up your kids. If you're worried about picking up your kids, make a little note, write it down, and the next couple of minutes as I'm talking, it's over here. The reminder's in your post-it note. You will remember. It is such a mindful, such an intelligent space, and I can't emphasize that enough. And I think it's important for me to kind of talk about this space. And while I definitely kind of ebb in and out of that space myself, and the more I relax and let go of any ideas I have, the more I just rest there more naturally. But I like to talk about it a little bit because I think people have this confused idea that you're this mindless, kind of blissed out zombie that does nothing all the time. That's not how it is. I think that's initially kind of a phase a lot of us move through as we really touch deeply with the awakened self, and it just kind of obliterates the mind, and you're just like, wow. But that wow comes down. It comes down into the body, and the body has certain things that it moves from that space of wow. It wants to do. It wants to engage. And oftentimes it's very different than the ideas that we had about how our body should move or what we should do in this world. And the more we hold on to those ideas about what we think we should be or act and all these other things, that's where a lot of the pain comes. That's where a lot of the pain comes for people who are integrating this awareness and calling it forth. And I really am going to probably play with that metaphor a little bit more in my writings. I don't want you to think that like your awareness was over here and now it's coming in. It's like it was always here. You were always here. And so calling it forth is bringing it out of the dungeon that it was locked in, and moving all the bars, removing the warden, removing the walls, all the things that were blocking it off, and allowing it to expand, allowing yourself to rest. And it doesn't have to be a difficult process either. Right? That's another part of the ego. The ego wants to turn this into an ordeal or initiation. And if it is difficult, that's okay. It's just not getting caught up in the idea that it should be difficult. Life is difficult at times, and life is easy at other times. Why would embodying your awakened self be any different? But ultimately, it's still in this moment, so I don't want you to get lost in the idea of this as a process. Like I speak of things as a process because we live in this world. But the more we let go of the idea of the process, the more we can just rest in the space. And as we rest in the space, it's interesting. You're going to learn that we live in a world of paradoxes, and that's okay. That the logic we try to fit the world into doesn't work at all. And so you'll find that the more you rest in here, the more a natural process does happen. It's like a tree growing. Right? When we're no longer trying to make the seed sprout in a certain way or go in a direction or any of that stuff, it eventually does sprout. And then it grows in its way, in its own time. But it's in complete acceptance of itself being a tree as it grows. It's never in conflict with it's like, am I being a good tree? Should I be a spruce tree? I don't know if I should be a spruce tree. And should I have peaches? I want to be like a peach tree. You know, it doesn't have all these issues. It just grows. Which is what we all can do, naturally. And there's such a rest when we're no longer trying to force growth, right? That's a big problem in Western society right now. So we're always trying to grow to something else, or to create something else, or to become something else, or have more, do more. I mean, it's exhausting. I mean, if any of that's resonating for you, I want you to actually feel into the exhaustion of it. A lot of people, I think, have the spiritual awakening fatigue stuff, not because of the awakening so much as because they're already exhausted. And the awakening has just brought awareness to the fact that you're exhausted. You've been doing so much for so many people with so little sleep, with bad nourishment, and on and on and on, that you're just out of gas. You have nothing left in the tank. And when you wake up, sometimes that's what you find out, and you just need to sleep for about 3 months. Who knows? And that's okay. It really is. Like I really just want you to go to that space. And once again, as I'm talking right now, just go to that space of knowing that everything is okay, that you're beautiful and you're perfect in this moment. It doesn't matter how much difficulty is in your life. The more you rest into this space and to accept this space, this is actually the one space where you can move again to bring change that's appropriate for you in your life. If you're in abusive situations, you have to accept them. You have to accept how you feel. Because then you can't deny it anymore. Because that's part of how a lot of things continue. So we get into a place where we don't rest in ourselves. And so we don't really see or feel everything. We're trying to numb ourselves. And so we can deny all the abusive and unhealthy situations we're in. You see how this works. It's like that's by coming back in and resting in this awareness. Suddenly like, oh my gosh, this is terrible for me. Now you can see it. Now you have to look at it. And you'll naturally be moved to change it. Although sometimes when we rest in that awareness, things already start to change on their own. Because that awareness is just that powerful. It changes the way we move and interact in the world and the energy we send out. But we have our role to play. I always like to say that going with the flow is important, but we're also in a boat and we have a paddle. We have some say in which direction we go. We can occasionally dodge a reef or a log stuck in the river. We're not mindless about that. And I think that's kind of my final point for today about resting in awareness. You're not going to lose your mind. You're not going to become a blithering fool who just lies around and does nothing. You're going to become very aware, very at peace. Perhaps you'll even feel more intelligent because you'll be able to see clearly. Because you're not so busy trying to judge things and make things be things that they aren't. But most of all, it is just so peaceful. And I encourage you to continue to practice finding this peace in yourself. It's already here, this awakened self, and to call it forth into your life. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye.